Crude oil prices are dropping. If you follow financial news, you've likely seen the headlines celebrating cheaper barrels and a cooling energy market. The logical leap most of us make from that news is pretty straightforward. If it costs less to move things, then the things themselves should cost less. Gas should be cheaper. A flight home for the holidays should be more affordable. And those grocery bills should finally start coming down. To be fair, you do see this happen in one specific place. When crude oil drops, the numbers you pay at the local gas pump usually follow suit fairly quickly. But then you walk into a supermarket or click checkout on your online cart, and the total looks exactly the same as it did a month ago. The relief hasn't trickled down. Oil powers the entire global supply chain. So if the cost of that raw power is dropping, where exactly are all those savings going? To answer that, we have to look past the top-line commodity index. We need to dissect the actual anatomy of a standard retail price tag and see exactly what we're paying for. Oil is a foundational economic engine. While we interact with it primarily as fuel for our daily commute, its reach extends much further. It powers the massive cargo ships transporting goods across oceans. It runs heavy farm equipment and construction machinery. It is even a chemical ingredient used to manufacture plastics, fertilizers, and packaging. Because of that massive footprint, a steep drop in oil prices does genuinely reduce the raw costs of global production and transportation. The reason your local gas station reacts to this first is because gasoline is essentially just refined crude. The raw material makes up the vast majority of what you pay at the pump. But for nearly every other consumer good, the cost of oil and transit represents only a single, limited slice of a much larger pie of expenses. Think about the day-to-day operations of a standard grocery store or an online retailer. They pay for transportation, yes, but they also have to run the actual business. The largest expense they carry is usually human labor. Managing payroll, employee benefits, and competitive wages forms a massive chunk of their operating budget. Then add in the other rigid operational expenses. Companies are paying for commercial real estate space, monthly utilities, cybersecurity, maintenance, and rising insurance premiums. This creates a strict mathematical reality. Even if the shipping portion of a business's budget shrinks because of cheap oil, those savings are immediately swallowed up if rent and labor costs are simultaneously climbing. A cheaper delivery truck simply doesn't lower the final shelf price when the building it delivers to is charging more in rent, and the staff inside require higher wages. There is another major variable at play here: time. The global supply chain operates on a long timeline. A company almost never manufactures, ships, and sells a product all on the same day. Instead, many businesses suffer from inventory lag. The items currently sitting in a warehouse or on a store shelf were likely manufactured and shipped months ago, when energy costs were much higher. There is also contract lag. Large retailers, manufacturers, and transportation companies lock in their fuel and raw material prices through long-term supply agreements well before any price drop actually occurs. Because of these overlapping delays, today's cheap oil is only reducing the cost of goods that are just now beginning the manufacturing cycle. It has zero effect on the physical items you are buying today. Consumers have to endure a waiting period. The old, expensive inventory has to completely clear out of the system before the cheaper goods can finally take their place. Let's look at an industry where fuel undeniably makes up a massive portion of the operating cost: commercial airlines. It seems obvious that if jet fuel gets suddenly cheaper, an airline ticket should instantly drop in price. But ticket pricing heavily relies on consumer demand. If people are eagerly buying flights and keeping planes fully booked at the current rates, airlines have absolutely no financial incentive to offer discounts, even if their underlying fuel costs drop. Economists often call this concept cost stickiness. It is the reality that businesses ultimately price their goods based on the highest amount customers are willing to tolerate, rather than strictly what it costs to produce the item. This leads to an economic pattern known as rockets and feathers. When supply chain costs rise, consumer prices shoot up instantly like rockets to protect corporate margins. But when those costs fall, the prices drift down slowly, like feathers. Companies rarely lower prices out of goodwill. They maintain those sticky prices until competitive market pressure ultimately forces them to reduce them. Falling oil prices are undeniably positive for the broader global economy. They relieve pressure on massive industrial sectors, but they are not a universal consumer discount code. The final number you see on your grocery receipt or monthly bill is actually a mirror. It reflects the health of the entire macroeconomic landscape. That single price tag absorbs the tightness of the local labor market, the prevailing interest rates set by central banks, and the persistent spending habits of everyday consumers. So, the next time crude drops, enjoy the immediate financial relief at the gas pump. Just keep in mind that the rest of your daily budget is tied to a massive economic puzzle, and the price of oil is just one piece.